My relatives were making fun of me in front of everyone when my wealthy uncle discovered that I was living in my vehicle and working 2 jobs to pay for college. Hello everyone. Prior to starting today's video, I need your assistance. One of the greatest ways you can help us out is to subscribe, since we've observed the channel is losing some of its popularity. It's simple, free, and helps us continue to provide you with amazing content. Your assistance is much appreciated. Together, let's continue to build this channel. Many thanks. Let's begin the video now. Alright, Reddit, this will take a while. Since my brain has been whirling from all that has transpired, I, a 19-year-old woman, need to put everything in writing. I never would have imagined that I would be revealing my life story here, but whatever. Let's get started. It all began when my father received a cancer diagnosis. When I started high school at the age of 14, I assumed mathematics or whatever would be my toughest challenge. Dad had been experiencing fatigue for some time, but we assumed it was simply a result of work-related stress. Mom then sat me down in our kitchen one typical Tuesday after school and informed me that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life for the following 6 months. Dad lost all of his hair, became quite ill very quickly, and dropped a lot of weight. On him, his favorite Chicago Bears jersey resembled a tent. He made an effort to be lighthearted. Even though he was hardly able to sit up, he nonetheless assisted me with my math assignments. "Don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," was his final advice to me. It was very fatherly of them to take him to the hospital for the final time. You never fail to make me chuckle. On a Thursday, he passed away. It was supposed to be pizza night, which is why I remember. We had been having a deep dish every Thursday since I was a little child. I assumed it would be the worst part of my life, but instead, I was sitting in a hospital waiting room with those dumb, flickering fluorescent lights, watching my mom sob into her phone while she spoke to our family. I was mistaken, boy. Following Dad's death, Mom completely lost it. About 2 months later, they began dating. Said that she needed to feel alive once again or something. She got to know Derek in this way. Rich man kind of real estate developer? He began to visit frequently with expensive presents for Mom, bringing her along on weekend excursions. I made an effort to feel pleased for her. Yes, I did. Her father wouldn't want her to stay depressed forever, would he? However, little than a year after her father's passing, she married Derek. Didn't even disclose their engagement to me. When she instructed me to try on a junior bridesmaid dress she had previously purchased, I learned the truth. The wedding took place at a posh Newport Beach country club. All of Derek's wealthy friends were present, observing us as though we were a charity case that Derek had taken in. I tried not to weep and hid in the restroom for the majority of the reception. Everything altered drastically at that point. Mom and Derek took up residence in his enormous Newport Beach home. We are referring to a location that has both a tennis court and a swimming pool. But you know what, I couldn't fit there. According to Mom, I would feel better at ease living in Chicago with my dad's sister and Aunt Lisa. More cozy for her mother. I was therefore sent to Chicago like a parcel that no one desired. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Marcus, and my cousins Michael, 17, and Rebecca, 18, reside in this enormous home in Lincoln Park. When we were youngsters, we were really close. Every summer, they would come visit, and we would spend weeks creating silly games and erecting blanket forts. But wow, when I moved in, everything was different. All of a sudden, I was no longer their entertaining summer cousin. I was this unwelcome guest in their home. They began behaving as though I was occupying their space, consuming their food, or inhaling their valuable air or something. Frequently, Michael would inadvertently knock over my belongings. Rebecca might say something like, "Her clothes are too nice to lend me." But Aunt Lisa was the worst when I initially arrived without any winter supplies. Made it quite evident that I was a burden. Began collecting rent from me while I was still a high school student. Who even does that? The portion that's truly messed up. Mom simply stopped phoning. Like, all the way. Sometimes she would send money. Aunt Lisa charged not enough to really cover the rent. But that was all. She was usually too preoccupied with her new life to answer the phone when I attempted to reach her. Too preoccupied with yoga. Too busy attending charitable functions. Too preoccupied to speak to her own child. On Facebook, I would see photos of her and Derek attending upscale parties while on vacation in Europe, living an other existence in which I didn't exist. Even our ancient family photographs were archived by her. Those who stated I was just some old furniture that didn't match her new decor said that I didn't fit her new profile aesthetic. When I was back in our former kitchen, where everything was regular, I began to have these nightmares. At Aunt Lisa's place, I used to wake up crying in this strange bedroom, while gazing at these expensive wallpapers that were more expensive than my entire wardrobe. I felt as though I had lost both of my parents rather than just one. After my first month at Aunt Lisa's, she suddenly raises my rent for whatever reason, like property taxes. Even though I'm just 15, I suppose I need a job. At that point, my cousin Rebecca also kindly informs me of a 24-hour laundry that is recruiting in what she refers to as Chicago's shady area. This dilapidated structure is sandwiched between a shuttered dollar store and an enormous phone repair business that I'm very certain never fixes any phones. After glancing at me, the proprietor, an elderly man called Jerry, concludes that I am far too young to be employed. Shift at midnight. My age wasn't a huge concern anymore, though, once I promised him I could start that night and wouldn't gripe about the salary. My life thus took on this bizarre routine, which, to be honest, still makes me anxious to think about. From midnight until 6 in the morning, I had to deal with the strangest folks you can imagine at the laundromat. The strange clients weren't even the worst part. The heater hardly functioned there because of how chilly it became. Winters in Chicago are also no joke. To make it through my shift, I would probably put on 3 hoodies. Did they never include that in the job description? However, Aunt Lisa's rent could not be paid with only one employment. In addition, there are necessities like food and school materials. I thus began working at this petrol station as well at 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. My beloved cousins made the decision to add extra excitement to my life at this point. You see, a quick stop was close to their upscale private school where the annual tuition definitely exceeded my income. It was amusing to Michael and his pals to enter during my shifts and simply ruin the place. They would unintentionally drop their Slurpees all over the floor and topple the chip displays I had just arranged. Open packs of beef jerky should be left all over the place. But Rebecca was terrible. She did it more deviously. She would enter the room with her cheerleading friends and they would talk loudly about me as if I weren't there. God, oh God, would you be able to work here? As if I would genuinely die for you. Take a look at her uniform. It's made of polyester. They would then share these terrible photos of me attempting to tidy up their mess on social media. Things at school also became worse. Rebecca somehow made sure that everyone at the public high school where I was attending was aware of my occupations. People began putting laundry quarters on my desk. On my locker, someone affixed a name tag that said Washer Girl. Very imaginative men. Regards, since nobody can stay awake when working from midnight to 6 in the morning, I was essentially dozing off during all of my classes, attempting to do homework at 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. and then starting up again at 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. My grades began to decline. Teachers frequently inquired about how things were doing at home. I just informed them that I was getting used to the relocation. Pete, a homeless man who came in most evenings, was the sole bright spot in the laundromat work. He was different from the other strange patrons. He taught me which customers were acceptable to overlook when they were a quarter short, and he demonstrated how to fix the quarter machine when it became stuck. Pete tells me one evening, "You're living life on expert mode right now, kid." Made me giggle for the first time in weeks. He disappeared when winter hit bad. I still worry about what happened to him sometimes. Uncle Marcus owned the building, but I never saw him there. He had this property management company handle everything. Sometimes I'd see these fancy cars drive by real slow late at night. Later found out he'd send people to check on the place. Guess he was watching me more than I knew. Meanwhile, Mom's sending these random texts like, "Hope you're doing well," but never actually picking up. When I called her, Instagram was full of pictures from Derek's yacht parties and charity galas. Must be nice having so much time for charity when your own kid's working 2 jobs to survive. Aunt Lisa kept finding reasons to raise the rent. Utilities went up, HOA fees increased. Your room is prime real estate. Like, yeah, I'm sure that converted storage room in the basement with the weird mushrooms growing in the corner is really prime Chicago real estate. I started hiding cash in this old teddy bear Dad gave me before he died. I had this whole plan that once I saved enough, I'd get my own place. But every time I got close to a decent amount, something would come up. School fees, winter boots. When my old ones fell apart, that time Michael accidentally backed his car into mine and I had to pay for repairs myself. But the final straw came one day when I came home from my gas station shift and found my room completely torn apart. The bear was ripped open, stuffing everywhere. And guess what? All my savings gone. Rebecca swore she was just cleaning and had no idea about any money. Yeah, right. That same week, Aunt Lisa comes down to my basement room and tells me rent's going up again. Not just a little, we're talking double. Said something about property values in the area increasing. I did the math and realized even with both jobs, I couldn't afford it anymore. Here's the problem though. This local community college was where I had been attending classes. Nothing special, just necessities. While still in high school attempting to advance? According to the counselor there, if I continued my education, I might be eligible for financial aid. I was forced to make a decision. Continue to pay Lisa's outrageous rent or make an effort to further your education. I decided on education. Had no real plan at all. I simply realized I couldn't remain there any longer. Things that would fit in my Toyota were packed. The heat only worked if you kicked the dashboard in the exact right place, and the car had strange rust spots all over it. It was mine though. In fact, the first night I slept in that car was rather quiet. Parked behind the washing machine. To sneak in and use the restroom, I used my work keys. The driver's seat was fully reclining throughout this entire setup. Made use of my work backpack as a cushion. I borrowed 5 blankets from the lost and found box and layered them. This isn't so bad, I thought. Then winter arrived. A true winter in Chicago. A type of spit that freezes before it hits the floor. I was unable to run the heat very much because the cold caused my car's battery to die. The lack of sleep and the cold weren't even the most difficult aspects. At school, it was attempting to appear normal. For example, try explaining to your chemistry teacher why you're wearing the same 3 outfits repeatedly, or why your homework is all wrinkled and smells like laundry detergent. What was I going to say when the school counselor persisted in trying to speak with me? Yes, my car is my home. Don't worry though, it's parked in a lovely alley. Michael, my beloved cousin, then made the decision to play detective. I suppose he became suspicious of my absence from the house. One night after my shift at the laundromat, they followed me. The following day, their TikTok featured a documentary series of videos titled, My Homeless Cousin. Everything was captured on camera. My windows were covered in frost. After the videos went viral in their wealthy kids' circle, I was even caught changing clothes in the back seat while attempting to study with the light from the laundromat sign. At night, people began honking their horns and hurling objects at my car as they passed the laundromat. The police also began to approach more. There would be a knock on my window every couple of nights. Miss, you can't sleep here, so until they departed, I drove around, then returned. I watched my gas gauge drop steadily while driving in circles for many nights. I prayed that I would have enough to go to work the following day. But you know what's strange? On some nights, I began to notice this black SUV parked across the street. It was always there, but in a different location. Windows with tints. First, the engine runs. I never bothered with them, but I assumed it was police or possibly some creep. They simply sat there as if they were observing. The temperature fell to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of cold that hurts your eyes one night. I couldn't get my car to start. The laundromat was closed for repairs and the phone was dead. Reflection. This is it then. I die like this. Like those rats in the alley, they will find me frozen. I wrapped all of my clothes around myself and tried to think positive thoughts. At that moment, there was a knock on my window. Uncle Marcus was standing in the snow when I looked up as if it were completely normal to be outside at 2 in the morning, at temperatures in the Arctic. He simply leaves. I believe we should speak. It turns out it was his black SUV. For weeks he had been observing me via the security cameras in the laundry room. I'm sending people to see how I'm doing. Claimed he was interested in seeing my composition. Who administers such a flawed test? To be honest though, I was too aloof to give a damn about his strange teaching strategies at that time. Uncle Marcus was standing there in his pricey wool coat staring at me through the window as I was essentially turning into a human popsicle in my car. He's probably going to give me a lecture, call the police, or do something else. My office has better heating instead, he says, as if this were a completely typical circumstance. This tiny space above the laundry room, which I had never seen before, was his office. As it happens, he had a whole private area up there. Coffee maker, mini fridge desk, and even a small bathroom. He just sits there watching me like he's trying to figure out a puzzle while I'm defrosting my fingers around this cup of really good coffee. At last he says, "You know, I used to sleep in a car with your dad." Which? What? I nearly spilled my coffee. You see, Uncle Marcus had always seemed like a crazy wealthy real estate tycoon who wore suits that were probably more expensive than my car. He then begins to tell me a story I was unaware of. It appears that he and my dad were extremely impoverished growing up. Even with their mother working 3 jobs, they were frequently unable to pay their rent. Not very good. Uncle Marcus pulls out his phone and shows me this ancient photo of 2 skinny teenagers sitting in a van eating beans straight from the can. "That's your dad on the left," he says, and yeah, same goofy smile I remembered, just on a much younger face. He has been telling me this story the entire time. Sitting there, I'm attempting to comprehend it. For example, how did they get from being homeless teenagers to this? He tells me about the laundromat at that point. On very cold nights, the original owner would let them hang out inside. When the owner became ill, they would assist him in fixing machines and cleaning up as needed. He proposed to sell the property to them. Uncle Marcus had been working in construction and saving every cent while Dad had recently enrolled in college on a scholarship. For essentially nothing, the owner sold it to him. His first property was that. After that, he begins to remove all of these old documents from his desk: contracts, business plans, and property deeds. In the margins are my dad's notes. Uncle Marcus goes on, "Your dad got sick. I had to make 2 promises to him. Initially, to protect you. Secondly, to ensure that you acquired the ability to take care of yourself." Then he looks at me and leaves. I must admit that you're performing better than I anticipated in the second section. I'm sitting there attempting but failing miserably to keep from crying. When the true surprise is revealed, he actually owns half the block surrounding the laundry. Now stores apartments, even that dubious phone repair shop. He has also been sending his guys in the SUV to watch me through the security cameras the entire time. You don't complain despite working 2 jobs. Maintained your academic standing. Discovered survival strategies that most people wouldn't consider. Even outperformed the manager I hired in running that laundromat. The last part was actually delivered with a smile on his face. I was informed by Jerry that you had fixed the quarter machine of Seoul. It took 3 tries for my maintenance guy to figure that out. He takes out this key at that point. It's for the apartment above his workplace, he says. An entire studio apartment. I had no idea it even existed. It's mine, he said. No rent. As long as I continue to work at the laundromat and maintain my academic standing. I made an effort to refuse. Such as this. It seemed overly charitable or something, but he quickly put an end to that. It's not charity. This is a financial commitment. You possess both your father's intelligence and your own unique brand of willpower. I'm spending money on that. After that, he shows me the entire file. My academic records, Jerry's work reports, and even screenshots of those terrible TikToks created by Michael and Rebecca have all been preserved by him. They believed they were humiliating you. All I saw, he claims, was someone who wouldn't break. Strange, don't you think I always assumed he was this wealthy, heartless man who allowed his wife to treat me like trash? He was actually testing me. It was a messy way to do it. Yes, but now I understand it somewhat. He wanted to know if I possess my father's qualities. It's what keeps you going when everything seems to be against you. He mentioned Dad one more time before I left his office that evening. Informed me of their most recent chat while Dad was in the hospital. His father forced him to swear. Not to give me everything at once. Claimed that I had to first learn how to be strong on my own. Uncle Marcus did, however, add that one should know when enough was enough. You've more than proven yourself, kid. For the first time in months, I slept in a real bed that night. It was a simple 1-room apartment with a bathroom and kitchenette, but it was safe, clean, and warm. However, I woke up to a barrage of Aunt Lisa's texts on my phone the morning after Uncle Marcus gave me the apartment. As it happens, Michael saw me coming down from the apartment upstairs and drove past the laundromat on his way to school. It was only natural for him to take photographs. During my shift, Aunt Lisa arrives at the laundromat looking like she's about to blow up in her expensive workout attire. Start yelling that I've been seducing her husband, or that I'm attempting to take him away. Like Aunt Lisa, yes. Being homeless and repairing washing machines completely captivated him. Very seductive. Every customer was looking. Additionally, an elderly woman who visits every Wednesday to launder her cat's blankets actually began recording the entire event on her phone. Aunt Lisa keeps saying that she always knew I was trouble, and it's crazy. How I try to take advantage of wealthy men just like my mother. As I stand there in my filthy work uniform holding a mop, I wonder if this is actually happening at this very moment. Then before he calls the police, Jerry emerges from the back room and tells Aunt Lisa that she must leave. She leaves, but not before telling me this isn't over. That night I heard Lisa and Uncle Marcus having this huge fight upstairs in his office. Even though their voices were muffled, I could still see Lisa yelling about that girl. And how dare you, I felt so ashamed. Like I'd ruined their marriage or something, found out later. Aunt Lisa slept at her friend's house that night. When I saw Uncle Marcus the next morning, he had dark circles under his eyes and just gave me this tired nod. But the weird thing is that my mom suddenly started calling me for the first time in months, acting all concerned. Honey, I'm hearing some disturbing things. Like she had any right to be concerned after abandoning me. I'm sure that someone, probably Rebecca, sent her the rumors. Then she and Derek unexpectedly arrive at my apartment. Mom's wearing one of her new designer outfits. Her eyes scan my tiny studio apartment. She responds, "Oh, honey," but it sounds more cunning than caring. This is quaint. Derek stays by the door, like he's afraid poverty might be contagious. What are you doing here? Without offering them a seat, I ask. Unless they want to sit on my unmade bed, there is nowhere to sit anyhow. Mom begins to pace my small room. We have heard rumors concerning you and your Uncle Marcus. She says it in a way that makes my stomach turn. Uncle Marcus, what about him? Sweetheart, hurry up. She attempts to smile in a conspiratorial manner. I am aware of your actions. It's ingenious. Actually, at your age, I never would have considered it. What did you think of this kind of closeness to Marcus? Working for his company? Portraying the destitute, forsaken niece? He's probably made a lot of promises to you. It's like a slap of realization. Do you believe I'm attempting to steal his money? Nevertheless, do you not reside here occupying that laundry room? Being with him all that time, what you're doing is clear. I chuckled, and it sounds harsh. To whom is it obvious, you? The woman who forgot about me after sending me to Chicago? It's unfair. No. What's unfair, you ask? When Dad passed away, you vanished. What you married Derek, I was sent to Aunt Lisa's 10 months later. As if I were some outdated furniture that didn't go with your updated interior design. She claims that I was in mourning, but her eyes are on her pricey watch rather than me. Were you upgrading? In response, I traded up for a more upscale lifestyle with your charity galas and real estate husband. What comes next? Are you concerned that I may receive some of Uncle Marcus's funds before you do? Then Derek moves forward. Fake authority, all of it. Listen up, young woman. I'm worried about your well-being, as is your mother. My well-being. The laughter erupts once more. This time it's ugly. When I was 15, working 2 jobs and sleeping in my car, Aunt Lisa was charging me rent. Where was this worry? Mom dismissively waves her hand. Avoid being theatrical. Lisa would never look through my bronchitis hospital records. In that car, sleeping. Examine the pay stubs from the laundry and gas station. Look at the rent receipts I was forced to keep by Lisa. Oh, hold on. You can't. You didn't even return my calls because you were too busy sharing photos from your yacht parties. That's in the past. But she's fidgeting with her wedding ring, Mom says. She upgraded Dad's wedding ring with larger diamonds. We are now available to assist. This amazing boarding school in Switzerland is run by a friend of Derek's. You want to help? Now I raise my voice. Or did you just learn that I'm learning about the business from Uncle Marcus? Concerned that I might discover something? Take what you believe is rightfully yours. Mom's expression shifts, then hardens. Abandons the worried mother and acts fully. Your father had a brother named Marcus. I'll take anything he gives me. I'm right, his wife, ex-wife, who less than a year after his death got married again. She begins, I deserve, but I interrupt. You are deserving. Dad was involved in the establishment of this company. He began with nothing, as did Uncle Marcus. While you and Derek are busy organizing charity galas. I'm learning how to take care of books, fix washing machines, and help people the way my dad did. She spits out, your father was a teacher. He played with Marcus's business as if it were a pastime. Leave now. I gesture toward the door. Return to your ideal life with your ideal spouse. Arrange another charity event. The family photos don't look like you, so go archive some more. Leave my apartment, please. Derek makes another attempt. Look here now. You see here, no. My voice is surprisingly steady now. I am fully aware of the reason you are both present. You heard that I became frightened while working with Uncle Marcus. I'm afraid I might win something you believe is rightfully yours. Here's the problem, though. I'm not you. Money is not why I'm here. When you threw me away, Uncle Marcus gave me a chance, which is why I'm here. Mom gets red in the face. You dare? How could I? You only care about your bank account, so how dare you come here and act as though I'm not important? I approach and open the door. You look desperate in that pantsuit, Mom, by the way. They depart with Derek already on his phone and Mom muttering something about gratitude. Shaking through the thin walls, I slide down against the door and close it. Mom's voice comes to me. This is what I predicted would occur. That tiny gold digger will attempt to seize everything. Things became strangely quiet for about a week following the entire drama with Mom and Derek showing up. One evening while I was at work, Michael ran into the laundry room. He appeared frightened. As it happens, he was utilizing Aunt Lisa's iPad. Someone saved his D, and a message appeared saying that everything was prepared for next week. Lisa's sweetheart. Finally, we will be free. Michael being the inquisitive child that he is. Get the messages open. It appears that Aunt Lisa never logged off of her iPad accounts everyone. Derek was the D, like my mom's husband Derek or my stepdad Derek. For months they had exchanged texts. All these emails were discovered by Michael. There are 2 schemes for them to steal a large sum of money from Uncle Marcus's company and flee together. It had taken them nearly a year to plan. Each time Aunt Lisa increased my rent, the funds immediately went into a hidden account. Having no idea what to do, Michael arrived. In his life for the first time. This child who had teased me about my lack of wealth was aware that his mother was going to take everything and abandon him. I gave Uncle Marcus a call. I won't lie. After the way they treated me, a part of me wanted to let everything blow up. It would have been a good act of karma. Uncle Marcus immediately came down to the laundry room. When Michael showed Uncle Marcus all the messages, he was still trembling. Uncle Marcus's face shut down, and I've never seen him look so blank. He called a few people. It turns out that his lawyer had long harbored suspicions regarding certain business accounts. All the paperwork was done by Aunt Lisa, but the numbers didn't add up. No one paid much attention to her because Uncle Marcus trusted her with everything. The attorney examined each account and transaction. Are you aware of the amount they intended to steal? $4.3 million. Nearly $1 million had already been transferred to offshore accounts. Aunt Lisa was always complaining about utility bills and property taxes. She was also pilfering that money. The worst part was that some of that money was taken from Rebecca's and Michael's college funds. In order to flee with my stepdad, their own mother was stealing their future. Uncle Marcus brought in an entire team of accountants and attorneys. They discovered all of these phony businesses Aunt Lisa had established. She would send checks to these businesses for supplies or upkeep, but the funds would only end up in more obscure accounts. Aunt Lisa was acting perfectly normal throughout all of this. She continues to share selfies from her workouts on Instagram. She continues to conduct her PTA meetings, continuing to act like this ideal wealthy mother. Derek was no different, purchasing pricey items for my mother and taking her to charity functions, pretending to be the loyal husband. We had to wait, the lawyer said. Before you confront them, get additional proof. Rebecca, however, also discovered everything on the iPad. One evening, she stopped by my apartment. When she asked if she could stay with me, she had mascara all over her face from crying. She didn't have a perfect place to sleep for the first time in her life. Having her there was strange. After mocking me for being homeless, this girl was now essentially homeless herself. Being in Aunt Lisa's home was intolerable to her. She wore my Target clothes, used my cheap shampoo, slept on my tiny futon, and repeatedly apologized for how she had treated me after she had learned everything. To be honest, though, it was enough to see her realize that having money does not equate to being a good person. Uncle Marcus had his IT staff monitor every transaction and keep tabs on every account. The idea was to apprehend them just before they attempted to flee. However, Aunt Lisa began moving money more quickly, so she must have realized something was wrong. Michael's 18th birthday celebration was held the following morning. At their home, Aunt Lisa had organized this enormous event, hired a caterer and DJ. I even set up a game of mini golf in the backyard. She was being particularly kind to everyone, most likely because she believed it to be her final weekend. Marcus, their uncle, decided that we would confront them at that point, prepare all of the supporting documentation, bring everyone together. Uncle Marcus told Rebecca no when she asked if we should alert my mother first. To determine whether she was involved, we had to witness her sincere response. It was an odd morning on the morning of Michael's birthday celebration, like really strange. Aunt Lisa is literally preparing to vanish with my stepdad as she rushes around setting up centerpieces and checking the catering. Knowing that everything was going to blow up, Rebecca and I assisted with setup the following day. Attempting to be normal. Every time his mother gave him a hug, Michael appeared as though he was about to vomit. This whole scheme was Uncle Marcus's. During the party, his lawyer would arrive out of the blue with some urgent paperwork. All the evidence would be dropped after they gathered everyone in the living room. In fact, the FBI was waiting close by. Yes, real FBI agents, as it seems that they have a tendency to steal millions from lawful companies while preparing to leave the country. My mother arrived early because she was looking forward to the celebration. She was acting as though nothing was wrong, even though she hadn't spoken to me since the whole boarding school incident in Switzerland. Derek entered behind her with this enormous wrapped gift. Later on, it was discovered to be a sophisticated gaming system. He must have been attempting to buy Michael's silence. At 2:00 p.m., the celebration began. These wealthy students from Michael's school are all driving Mercedes and BMW. They were purchased by their parents. Music is being played by the DJs. In the pool, people are swimming. Except for Rebecca, everything appears to be perfectly normal. I'm watching with Michael. Additionally, Derek and Lisa are constantly whispering to one another and checking their phones. At approximately 4 p.m., the attorney arrived. When Lisa saw him, he was carrying this heavy folder and had a serious expression on his face. I'd like to have a photo. She was aware that everyone was gathered in the living room. Uncle Marcus was like family to Michael, even though some of his friends tried to stay. It was only this voice that caused them to quickly depart. The lawyer began spreading out documents on the coffee table, including bank statements, emails, transfer records, and photos of Aunt Lisa and Derek together, taken by a private investigator while my mom was complaining that she had interrupted the party. The room grew quieter as he laid down each paper. He then played a recording of Derek and Aunt Lisa discussing their plans, while joking about how foolish everyone was for ignoring it. When my mother heard Derek's voice, she simply froze and stopped breathing. Uncle Marcus took out her iPad as Aunt Lisa attempted to deny the recording was a hoax. You guys, the person Michael discovered the messages on, began reading their texts aloud. The yelling that followed. Mom threw herself at Derek and began striking him with her purse, which contained a plethora of metal objects. When Aunt Lisa attempted to flee, the FBI men were already there. "Lisa Anderson, you are under arrest for embezzlement and wire fraud," says an agent woman. They handcuffed them both and took them away. Derek insisted on shouting that he had a compelling explanation. Aunt Lisa was sobbing because we had destroyed her life. However, do you know what was the worst? They didn't even glance at their children, as if the celebration of your son's 18th birthday had suddenly become a crime scene. You're not even able to apologize. Mom went completely crazy, almost to the point of hysteria. It turns out that Derek had also been misusing her funds. She claimed that because she trusted him, she had signed a number of documents without reading them, and that he had essentially taken everything she had left from her father's life insurance. The weeks that followed were hectic. Additional items were discovered during the FBI investigation. Derek and Aunt Lisa had spent more than a year organizing this. They were prepared with offshore accounts, phony passports, and a whole secret life. Almost everyone had been the victim of their theft. The company, the children, the college funds, and even the charity money from the upscale events they frequently attended. Uncle Marcus was keeping an eye on how everyone was handling it during all of this. Michael and Rebecca essentially moved into my small apartment. We had the entire system. On the futon, Michael slept. It was interesting that Rebecca shared my bed and that we all used the same bathroom. The laundromat hired both of them. When Rebecca isn't being rude to her customers, she actually does a great job with them. Michael children have a knack for repairing machines. He solved the industrial dryer's issue that the repairman was unable to resolve. Mom checked herself into a rehab facility. Not for drugs or anything, simply to handle everything. She had disregarded all the warning signs about Derek because she was so preoccupied with maintaining the ideal wealthy life and looking flawless. Uncle Marcus took the initiative. He has been educating us on every aspect of the company. He claims that one day Michael, Rebecca, and I will run it together. Everybody has different strengths. Like my dad, I'm good with numbers. When she tries, Rebecca gets along well with others. Additionally, Michael has a strange talent for machines. We all visited Dad's grave last week. It was our first time there together. Uncle Marcus told us more about himself, including how he was still a teacher and had contributed to the establishment of this entire company because he thought that people should be helped. Derek and Lisa are currently incarcerated. It turns out that it's somewhat illegal to steal millions and make plans to leave the country. Both of them are attempting to place the blame elsewhere, which, if it weren't so depressing, would be humorous. Rebecca and Michael are still having trouble with it. Imagine, for example, learning that your mother was more concerned with escaping with someone else's husband than she was with you. It's strange, though. Actually, we've improved. Rather than concealing her problems behind expensive sunglasses, Mom is coping with them just like the rest of us. Michael and Rebecca discovered what it's like to genuinely put effort into things. I discovered that it's not always a sign of weakness to accept assistance from others. There are moments when I look at my life today and am struck by how different it is from a year ago. For example, I'm sitting in my office, which is the laundry room. It hits me now that I am in charge of the place. I lost my family, but now I'm doing much better. TLDR discovered that the stepfather and aunt were secretly in love and plotting to steal millions of dollars and flee. At a birthday celebration, they were arrested. Mom lost it. Went to a rehabilitation center. Laundry taught cousins to be humble. And in some way, we all came together as a true family. Dad was also performing for us from the afterlife. Story 2. This narrative has a title. For 3 years, I sent my parents $2,000 a month, yet they threw me out when I visited for Christmas. I therefore exacted my retribution. Hello everyone! Prior to starting today's video, I need your assistance. One of the best ways you can help us out is to subscribe. As we've observed, the channel is losing some of its popularity. It's simple, free, and helps us continue to provide you with amazing content. Your assistance is greatly appreciated. Together, let's continue to build this channel. Many thanks. Let's begin the video now. I never imagined that I would be doing this at 2 in the morning, man. I need to get this off my chest after the shit show that happened over Christmas, but I'm sitting at my home office. For months, I've been reading other people's experiences on this sub and thought, damn, at least my family isn't that bad. As it happens, I was mistaken. So fucking incorrect. To put things in perspective, I'm 34 years old and have worked my way up the medical device sales ladder for the past 8 years. Those insane, costly devices and implants that keep people alive in hospitals, you know? My universe is like that. Furthermore, contrary to what my parents seem to believe, it wasn't given to me on a silver platter. I lived out of my 2008 Honda Civic during my first year of employment. Not a joke. In your early days, commission-only sales are cruel. Imagine sleeping on a planet while attempting to persuade surgeons to entrust you with their patients' lives. Showers at the gym and the fitness parking lot. However, that's what it takes to get started in the field. My folks said I was crazy for quitting my steady office job. I was progressively dying to pursue this boring AF data entry job. Why are you unable to be content with a typical job was at the time their favorite line. However, I worked hard. For example, get up at 4:30 a.m., get to the gym by 5 o'clock, because in this field it's important to look professional. By 7 o'clock we're on the road. They typically wait until late to conclude with surgeons. I would occasionally be in the OR till 9 p.m. observing processes to have a better understanding of the equipment. It was a terrible first year. However, it was worthwhile. Hit the top sales list in my area. It's been 3 years now, earning a healthy 6 figures. I'm not attempting to brag. Believe me, the tale depends on this. I started from absolutely nothing. I now have my own place. A nice 3-bedroom home in a desirable area. Not really opulent, but it belongs to me. Yes, I occasionally date, but I'm still single. Last year, a significant relationship came to an end. She urged me to take more time off and calm down, like, you don't stay at the top of this industry like that. That grind mindset was never comprehended by my parents. For 25 years, they operated their antique restoration business in the same manner. Never attempted to enlarge, never took chances. Speaking about their company, this whole thing began there. When COVID-19 struck, everything went horribly wrong. Prior to it, their store was actually rather prosperous. They had a good reputation in our area, restored antique furniture, and completed special work for some affluent clientele. However, their regular customers vanished overnight as everything shut down and orders dried up. Unexpectedly, they find themselves sitting on a warehouse full of partially completed items and unpaid invoices after new projects were canceled. That was when it began. The phone calls, the tidbits of information about their hardships, and the memories of how they had always supported me. Indeed, they had obstructed their path. Provide a roof for me, enrolled me in respectable schools, in a good district but public. Never missed a birthday. I was therefore unable to refuse their request for assistance, began sending them $2,000 a month. It sounds insignificant in comparison to some of the things I've read on this site. Do the math though. It comes to $24,000 annually, $72,000 spread out over 3 years. That money could have been used to purchase a Tesla. Since depreciation is a bitch, I wouldn't. You understand the purpose though. It felt good at first, as if I were at last repaying them for everything. At first they were really appreciative. On the phone, Mom used to cry. Dad would express his pride to me. But these things happen, you know? Over time, the appreciation evolved into anticipation. The expressions of gratitude become shorter. More attention was paid to what they required next in the calls. The thing that really irritates me is that my brother Jake, a 31-year-old man, lives in their basement and earns enough money from his gaming setup and streaming business to purchase a pizza every month. But because I sometimes say that $2,000 is a lot to send each month, I'm somehow the villain. He's sharing images of his setup and energy drinks on Instagram as he chronicles his hustle and grind. That one is a real hard worker. When we were kids, I used to stand up for him. He was my younger brother. He was teased in high school for being the strange kid who was too interested in anime, you know? Since school isn't for everyone, I supported him when he left community college. I encouraged him and advised our parents to give him some time to work things out. 10 years have passed, and the only thing he has learned is how to do it considerably more efficiently. In hindsight, I can see how everything culminated in this Christmas. There were clues in the way Mom would bring up Jake's professional aspirations. How Dad began discussing family heritage and mutual support. Some people have it easier than others, according to the passive-aggressive texts. I simply didn't anticipate it blowing up the way it did. I never thought I'd be sitting here at 2 in the morning typing this, trying to figure out how I handed them $72,000 and somehow became the antagonist in their story. And that's only the preparation. Believe me, it becomes so bad that spending $2,000 began to feel more like feeding a black hole than supporting family. Are you familiar with the sensation of having too much weight on the bar when working out? You feel something is going to give, but your form is hurting, even though you can still lift it. This felt that way each and every month. At 4:30 a.m., I usually start my day. I get up early workout and hit golds by 5 o'clock. In this field, you have to remain sharp. When you appear to be in control, surgeons will respect you more. Under those flickering fluorescent lights, I'm generally the first one there going through my routine, as the morning crew continues to set things. I take a shower, get dressed, and leave by 7 o'clock. 3 large hospitals and perhaps a dozen minor surgical centers are included in my jurisdiction. This is what people don't understand about the sales of medical devices. It goes beyond simply chatting with doctors. Because someone's life is actually on the line, I'm in an operating room observing procedures and ensuring my equipment is running flawlessly. One mistake and one moment of inattention. I might lose all I've worked so hard to get. It's crazy how much pressure there is, therefore it's possible that I become a little resentful when I'm in an operating room. While Jake is most likely still in his jammies streaming Fortnite to his 12 followers, I'm watching a complicated spine surgery for 6 hours straight, knowing that $2,000 of my commission is going directly to my parents. Not a joke. Looked at his Twitch statistics. Curiously, the most views he ever received were 15. 3 of those were probably our cousins. The weekly family calls turned into this strange battle of the mind. Like clockwork, Mom would begin with a routine every Sunday at 7 p.m. How is work going? Am I eating correctly? Have I met anyone? Good. However, this undercurrent, this subtle guilt trip became less subtle each week. Ryan, you put in a lot of work. We're quite pleased with you. Interpretation? You earn a good living. Why don't you share additional information? Jake's channel translation skills have been improving significantly. Your brother needs better gear. Hint, hint. We're handling the translation, but the house needs some repairs. We anticipate receiving the check on time next month. Jake's voice would rise from the background in the meanwhile. Watch my most recent stream, dude. Set a new subscription record. Yes. Great story, dude. Going from 8 to 9 subscribers is probably not gonna blow Twitch away. The thing that really irritates me is that whenever I visit his studio to obtain new LED lights for his gaming chair, I find his Amazon parcels stacked on their doorstep. While I'm figuring out how many operations I need to schedule to keep up with paying them money, they have this insane $300 microphone setup. During our weekly BJ session, I made an attempt to discuss it with my best friend Mike. 2 years ago, I began attending lessons. Greatest way to relieve tension. He simply stared at me as if I were crazy. At age 31, you're essentially giving your sibling his allowance, dude. It's messed up. The worst part, though, is that I began to notice strange things on social media. Jake would make lengthy tirades about people who were phony successful and how some people peaked in high school. Since I was the wrestling team's captain while he was attempting to launch an anime club, I'm very certain those were directed at me. The worst thing, these posts would get likes and comments from Mom. It seems like everyone follows their own way, my dear. I mean, are you serious? You're cashing my checks and supporting this garbage? After that, Jake launched this entire Instagram entrepreneurship coach thing. He shared a photo of himself in front of the Audi I had purchased, along with some nonsense about manifesting success and creating an empire. Before my client saw it, I had to tell him to remove it. If a surgeon saw that, would he assume I was connected to his clown show? Every time I hit send on my banking app, I began to dread those monthly transfers. I would experience a knot in my stomach. I started delaying things I needed, postponed purchasing new business outfits, continued to drive on tires that need replacement. Watched Jake post about his most recent investments in his streaming career while skipping a dental cleaning. One of our Sunday calls was the true gut punch. Mom was talking endlessly about how difficult life was. Jake adds his voice as well. Yes, but I'm here for Mom and Dad at least, not merely tossing them money from afar. How daring of this guy to insult me while sitting in their basement and doing nothing constructive. I'm now wrapping up a challenging knee replacement case, which is about a week before Christmas. Special thanks to Dr. Anderson. In the OR, this guy is a beast. As soon as my phone explodes. Within 20 minutes, Mom missed 3 calls. For comparison, my mother often sends 1 text and waits for a response. Multiple calls indicate that she is either preparing to engage in some major manipulation or that something is seriously amiss. Still wearing my surgical scrubs, I leave the operating room and give her a call back. That's the tone of her voice. You know, the tone that makes your stomach turn before she even gets to the point, that sickly sweet, guilt-dripping tone. I just called you about Christmas dinner, Ryan, my love. It's as if she's calling me to court. I'll now show you our typical family Christmas photo, which is one of those iconic films. Then take away all the happiness, add a good amount of passive-aggressive remarks, and then multiply the tension by 1,000 or so. My parents' house is celebrating Christmas. However, something felt different this year. Ryan remembered the value of family. Each of us has made many sacrifices. It was there. The S word in my household, code for sacrifice. You had better have your wallet open when you arrive. In the meantime, Jake is audible in the background, most likely broadcasting his voice and acting like an enthusiastic YouTuber. Remember to hit the like button, family. I'm still perspiring after being in the operating room as I stand in the hospital hallway. I listened to my mother babble on about family customs for 4 hours. In the background, my 31-year-old brother is actually shouting about Twitch subscriptions. I nearly burst out laughing at the ridiculous contrast, but I made a mistake here. This year, I made the decision to go big. Like enormously large. I recently closed a huge contract with a brand new orthopedic practice. Although commission hadn't arrived yet, I was feeling giving and felt it will happen soon. I spent $1,800 on this amazing 65-inch OLED TV, the top of the range at Best Buy. The refresh rate of Perfect Blacks is 120 Hz. The type of television that most people watch and consider for next year. The Best Buy salesman. Kevin. This cool guy truly understands his technology. Tried to get me to go to the 55-inch. He said it was better value for the money. But no, the big shot had to be me. Something has to be proven. In hindsight, Kevin was attempting to protect me from myself. If you're reading this, Kevin, you were correct, my friend. Jake's is flooding our family group chat with links to his most recent streams while I'm choosing the TV. He has nearly 100 followers. Storyteller. He had not yet reached 100 followers. In response, Dad uses those generic dad emojis that he believes give him a tech-savvy appearance. Mom is reacting to everything with heartfelt feelings. In the meantime, I'm spending over $2,000 on a television that I'll most likely use to view Jake streams in high definition. Dad had been acting strangely on our calls lately, which was the strange part. He is typically the talkative one, constantly eager to discuss sports or voice grievances about the neighbors. However, radio quiet lately. Like a statue that occasionally grunts in agreement with Mom and Mom, he would simply exist throughout these family calls. She got into the habit of concluding every chat with a mysterious remark about impending great changes or family gathering together. As subtle as a sledgehammer to the face, Mom is really subtle. I ought to have anticipated it. Every symptom was present. Jake abruptly began tidying up his streaming room, for the first time in likely years. Mom is asking strangely detailed questions regarding my commission structure and job routine. The odd quiet of Dad. It was similar, like yelling at the main character in a scary movie to stay out of the cellar. However, I was the idiot who down those stairs. The day prior to Christmas. Games don't take vacations, which is why I'm at the gym. And Jake sends me this text. I'm excited to see you tomorrow, buddy. I have important news to share. It was the first direct text message he had sent me in months that wasn't a plea for channel assistance or a stream link. That ought to have been the last warning sign. But no, I'm deadlifting there. I wonder if he's finally matured. Perhaps he has a legitimate job. Perhaps tomorrow won't be a total bust. I composed this lovely card about family gratitude and all that generic nonsense. I expressed my pride in them for overcoming the difficult circumstances following the closure of their firm. How glad I was to be able to assist. Very sentimental items that were most likely thrown out before the TV was even opened. There was that bone-chilling cold chill at the beginning of Christmas morning. I recall spending a solid 10 minutes sitting in my car outside of their house. Heat is on full blast and the engine is running. Merely observing my breath, fogging the panes. That 1-800 TV was taking up a lot of room and the Audi leather seats felt cold against my back. In order to see anything, I had to tilt my rearview mirror. I had already gone to the gym even though it was only 11 a.m. Gains from holidays are still gains. Prepared the week's meals because the corners kept shredding discipline doesn't take vacations and wrap that fucking TV 3 times. Do you remember the scene in war films where the soldier looks at a picture one last time before entering combat? I felt that way when I saw the $2,000 transfer I had made 2 days early as a Christmas surprise on my banking app. Transfers for 3 years. I never missed one. Never be late. The actions we take for our family. Correct, I could tell something wasn't right as soon as I approached their door. You know how there's a certain smell about your childhood home? Like a combination of the fabric softener your mom has been using since the 1990s and anything she makes. I was impacted hard by that stench. Something more, though, was in the air. Anxiety. The sort that tastes. With what I refer to as her real estate agent, Mom opened the door. Grin, no warmth, all teeth. I got her this Christmas jumper last year and she was wearing it. For the guilt points, most likely. She barely looked at me as she ushered me in, then quickly disappeared into the kitchen to check on the turkey. The living room's Christmas decor was reminiscent of those of Twitch streamers. It seems that Jake persuaded them to install RGB light strips around the ceiling. Mom, it's for the Christmas look. He could see his streaming setup through the basement door. There were more monitors, more lights, and what appeared to be a brand new gaming chair. It was interesting to observe the use of my support funds. Dad was lying in his chair, which he had owned since I was a high school student. He nodded at me in a funny way, as if he were recognizing a stranger on Christmas morning at a gas station rather than his son. His eyes were fixed on his phone as a basketball game aired on the TV, most likely looking at Jake's most recent subscriber count or something. Speaking of Jake, my brother made a big show about 15 minutes after I got there. He dressed in what must have been a knockoff Supreme hoodie and carried his newest streaming accessory, a professional camera setup that was clearly beyond my budget. "Hey, how are you, family?" His voice, the one he uses in his streams, was a phony YouTuber. Most likely habit at this stage. As always, Big Bro looks professional. It was a jab at my attire. Just pants and a basic sweater, nothing fancy. However, it seems that in Jake's universe, anything that isn't shown by anime characters is considered corporate. The handoff to the TV was incredibly awkward. Jake began describing how this would be ideal for his streaming area before I had even removed the wrapping paper. While Dad continued to stare at his phone, Mom interrupted with a hesitant, "Oh, but it should remain in the living room, honey." Cool, cool. The Waller $800 family TV alone is being used as a backdrop on Twitch. Not a huge deal. The beginning of dinner resembled a hostage negotiation. Everyone is passing plates with fake smiles and treading carefully. I was shoveling down Mom's dry turkey because I needed something to do besides talk. The quiet was so heavy that it could be broken with the elegant set of knives I had given them for Christmas, which incidentally appeared to have been utilized. Then Jake revealed the secret. While your family is struggling, it must be good to have all that additional money. He didn't even look up from his plate as he spoke, his mouth full of mashed potatoes. I swear the room's temperature fell 10 degrees before I could comprehend the words which hung in the air like smoke. Dad cleared his throat. "Are you familiar with the sound people make just before speaking?" "Have they practiced?" "Yes, that one. We must discuss the monthly support, son." I recall slowly setting down my fork. Like in those movies where you know that something bad is going to happen. Mom's hands, which she has had since I was a child, were fiddling with her napkin. I intended to use Jake's knockoff Supreme hoodie to erase the smirk from his face. "We believe it's time to change the quantity," Dad went on. "I haven't made eye contact yet. In light of the circumstances, we think $4,000 would be more suitable." $4,000. I nearly choked on my dinner, but I didn't. In my throat, the turkey felt like sandpaper all of a sudden. The simple math was all I could think about. That's $48,000 more than some nurses earn annually. More than many folks earn. Jake's career requires some initial funding. Mom interjected as though she were pleading with me to share the burden rather than doubling my income. In the very competitive streaming market, having the right gear is crucial. I glanced at my dad's new smartwatch across the table. He got that when Jake's designer sweatshirt. That product isn't cheap fake or not. At the RGB lit space that resembled a gaming cafe more than the house I grew up in. For 3 years, I supported myself by working extra cases for going holidays and delaying my own death. And it ended up like this. My beloved brother Jake made the decision to truly twist the knife at that point. Indeed, my friend, not everyone is cut out for a business position. Here, some of us are attempting to create something tangible. When your blood pressure actually starts to rise, do you ever experience this, where everything becomes somewhat sharp and silent at the same time, and where you can hear your heartbeat in your ears? Yes, greetings from my Christmas. After that Christmas catastrophe, I simply departed after telling them I would give it some thought. I was in a fog for the next few days. You've probably experienced the slightly surreal feeling that follows a difficult breakup, but it's made worse by the fact that your own family has just attempted to take advantage of you financially. I put myself into my work and took on more cases. Special thanks to the ER doctors who genuinely value someone arriving at 3 in the morning for urgent operations and mostly resided at the gym. Speaking of the gym, that's where it all began to go apart. 3 days following Christmas, I'm in this fancy gym next to the hospital. It's one of those establishments that serves real towels and serves water in glass bottles. Before this position, I never would have imagined working in such a setting. Since many of the surgeons work out there, I defend the cost of membership. Additionally, connections are crucial in the medical device sales industry. Since everyone keeps DMing me about my program, I'm currently in the middle of my deadlift set, 545 for reps. I see Mike Peterson when I look up when I hear my name called. I went to high school with this man. Now Mike works in real estate. Does our region have upscale properties? That's what we do. Uncomfortable. I'm sweating profusely, but I'm also trying to be friendly. Talk that takes place at gyms. Then he says, "Hey, I saw your parents last week," which causes me to drop the barbell in the middle of the rep. They're considering some lovely vacation homes in Florida. Retirement in style must be lovely, isn't it? Though I was hardly aware of it, some people were drawn to the sound of 545 pounds striking the platform. Vacation homes, Florida. What the real fuck, vacation properties? What do you mean trying to seem casual while my brain short-circuited? I managed to inquire. Bless his innocent heart, Mike simply keeps going. Yes, exactly. They are considering this pleasant neighborhood close to Naples. Very expensive thing. They made reference to selling their company for a sizable sum of money. A couple of months ago. A wise choice in this market. Mike quickly shifted the topic to asking about protein powder recommendations. But the damage was already done. I must have looked like I was having a stroke. After losing everything in the epidemic, my parents, whom I had been helping for 3 years, reportedly sold their company and were looking for vacation houses. Being able to research a network is one aspect of selling medical devices successfully. I took the course of action that any betrayed son with a large professional network would take. I dug. My friend Tom, who works at the bank where my parents' company accounts are kept, was the first person I called. He owed me for paying for his buy in the previous game when we played poker together once a month. Hey, dude. Strange inquiry, but what became of that Oak Street antique restoration company? Tom's answer was intriguing, incredibly fascinating. Yes, it was sold in September. I heard it was a very decent deal. Why September? They were still accepting my $2,000 checks when they sold the company 3 months ago in September. Sarah, who manages commercial properties in our region at the real estate office, was the next person we spoke with. We had a brief but amicable relationship last year. Hey, do you recall my folks' furniture restoration business? Do you know how much it sold for? She gave me a hint, but she was unable to provide me with specific numbers due to confidentiality issues. To put it mildly, they won't have to worry about bills for some time. Here's where it really shines, though. Do you recall Jake's streaming configuration? Those new flashy gadgets that expertly made camera. I began reading his reviews on Amazon. He does in fact review everything he purchases, as if he were a tech influencer. His purchases' timestamps matched my monthly remittances exactly. My money wasn't being used to pay expenses. They were paying for Jake's lifestyle as an aspiring influencer. I went into full detective gear, creating a spreadsheet and retrieving past bank statements, messages, and everything else. Yes, I'm the one who keeps track of when I sent money and when Jake unexpectedly acquired new streaming gear. It was almost humorous how clear the pattern was. However, it wasn't amusing at all. Do you recall Mom wearing that Christmas sweater, the one last year that I got her? 2 days after Christmas, she saw the exact identical one for sale on her Facebook marketplace. An explanation. Brand new with tags. Unwanted present. I sent them $2,000 a month for 3 years. The total is $72,000. That's more than a down payment on a good home for comparison. I obviously needed to wake up and understand what was going on because the price of a Tesla Model 3 was equivalent to 36,000 cups of coffee plus years worth of tuition at an in-state university. What were they going to do with it? Reportedly went house hunting in Florida and provided funding for Jake's pipe dreams. An old August email exchange between my parents and their business broker was the source of the actual gut hit. The pandemic hadn't cost them everything. In fact, they had successfully shifted to online sales. Not because they were having trouble, but because they wanted to retire the company sold. Everything. The depressing phone conversations, the guilt trips, and the accounts of financial hardship. I was the unwitting ATM in a lengthy scam that was written and carried out by my own family. Have you ever had a moment where you're so furious that everything makes perfect sense? Strangely serene, but in a way that makes me think I might actually turn over a table. At 8:06 p.m., I pulled up to my folks' house. I was still in my suit from a day of operating on patients on a Tuesday evening. I had watched a surgeon essentially rebuild someone's backbone during a difficult spinal fusion that afternoon. It's funny how you get these small metaphors from life, because I needed a backbone for precisely that. Their garage door was illuminated like a spotlight by my Audi headlights. Dad's brand new vehicle. Was there a new BMW 3 Series that seemed to emerge from their financial difficulties? Subtle men are promoting the idea of poverty. I still had my key. Ironic considering that years earlier they had emotionally shut me out. It was warm in the house, the living room's TV is on. I have a $1,800 OLED TV. For Christmas I had purchased them. I'm currently watching a Twitch stream. Specifically Jake's stream since, well, it was. Mom was scrolling through Zillow in her reading chair, most likely looking up real estate prices in Florida. Dad was using his phone to view Jake's broadcast while feigning to read the newspaper. And there was Jake himself spread out on the couch like some wannabe tech tycoon chatting to his dozen viewers on his new microphone about creating a genuine brand. The tableau of the family. Before I dropped a hefty manila package on the coffee table, everything was picture perfect. We must speak. In fact, Jake leaped. Mom's phone fell out of her grasp. Dad simply become extremely still. Similar to how prey react to a predator, they were aware. They were all fully aware of the contents of that envelope. We weren't expecting Ryan, honey. Mom began, but I interrupted her. Of course, I took out the first paper. What a hilarious story. At the gym, I ran into Mike Peterson. Do you recall Mike, a real estate agent? He brought up an intriguing point on Florida vacation rentals. Mother's face lost its color. Dad became enthralled with his newspaper. However, that made me pause. Why would my financially strapped parents, who barely make ends meet on $2,000 a month, be considering vacation homes? I therefore conducted some research. I began organizing paperwork such as bank statements, dealing cards, and documentation from the September business sale. Jake's past purchases on Amazon. Even located your previous correspondence with the business broker via email. Jake attempted to cut him off. You're making this strange, bro. This is strange because of me. I didn't sound quite sane when I laughed. On your content strategy board, you really wrote, convince R to increase monthly support. Jake, I saw the Instagram post. Very professional, incidentally. Advertising that lifestyle of an influencer. Mom attempted damage control. We can explain, darling. Describe how you told me you were having trouble, but managed to sell the company for a profit. How you funded Jake's midlife crisis with my money. Or perhaps explain this. I took a snapshot of her Facebook marketplace listing the Christmas sweater I had purchased for her and printed it out. At the very least, don't sell my gifts till I'm gone. Mom. When Dad did speak, it was with the same authoritative tone he had when we were children. Listen to this now. No, you pay attention. It takes 3 years of repressed anger to make your voice heard. I sent you $72,000 over 3 years. I postponed my own life, postponed purchasing a home, and avoided vacations. Additionally, you were lying to me the entire time. Jake smirked, which was a mistake. Not our fault. You're stupid enough to do it. I moved in his direction. Only one. He must have learned my movement from those BJJ classes, though, since he actually sank further into the couch. When someone who doesn't merely talk tough in a gaming chair confronts a streamer who lives in a basement, it's funny how the streamer loses his composure. I have a detailed list of everything you purchased using my funds. I kept taking out more documents. The streaming apparatus, the Florida property viewings, Dad's BMW, even located Jake's counterfeit Supreme merchandise receipt. That's real genuine brand building, dude. Now Mom was crying. They were actual tears, not the manipulative ones I'd seen previously. In just 10 minutes, Dad appeared to have aged 10 years. Jake was trying to blend in with the cushions on the couch. This is what will take place. My voice was steady as I spoke. Today was the last day of the monthly transfer. My bank has already set up alerts for me. I will post every piece of evidence I have online in response to any attempts to manipulate me, guilt trip me, or extract more money. Every invoice, every deception, every trick. Jake's 12 followers would undoubtedly be thrilled to realize just how genuine his brand is. The quiet was overwhelming. Jake's stream chat had stopped talking as well, perhaps perplexed as to why their favorite content producer appeared to have seen a ghost. Please, Ryan. Mom made one final attempt. We are related. No, I said, collecting my papers. This is not what family does. Family members don't deceive, control, or embezzle from one another. I don't consider you family. You people only thought I was an ATM. I left them with their Florida dream homes, their BMW payments, and their bogus Supreme merchandise. Jake's stream notification was the last sound I heard. The user 420 has unfollowed Dank. Excellent. A fucking conclusion. The last update. 6 months have passed after the altercation, and I'll tell you how things transpired after I cut them off financially. Jake's streaming career first collapsed. It turns out that maintaining the appearance of success is difficult when you are unable to continue purchasing new gear and purchasing bot followers. From his height of 15 subscribers, he now has a solid 3, the actual ones, not the bots. His alt account is probably one of those. Then news of their faltering company began to circulate across our neighborhood. Do you remember my gym buddy Mike Real Estate Brokers, it turns out? Talk a lot. Before long, everyone was aware that they had made a profit on the sale of the company while still defrauding their son. They must receive some odd glances at church. The ideal house in Florida. Lost. Their acquaintance, a realtor, is now my friend as well. It's funny how that operates. Informed me that they had to cancel all of the property tours. It seems that they underestimated the strength of their retirement savings. After they stopped taking their Ryan supplement each month, the finest part, though, comes after. I was wrapping up a complicated case at the hospital 3 weeks ago. 12-hour surgery, the kind that makes you remember why you initially entered the medical device sales industry. Making a difference, saving lives, all that wonderful stuff. After that, I check my work email and it's there. Mom sent me a message on my work email as I had blocked her on all other accounts. The heading, "We must speak, urgent family issue." The email was a desperate masterpiece. It turns out that they used credit for more than just Jake's automobile. Dad was really proud of that BMW. They also used credit cards to finance the purchase of new furniture for their made-up Florida house. Assuming that their personal ATM would continue to dispense cash, they had been living lavishly. They are currently drowning in debt. Actual debt. It wasn't the phony kind they claimed to have before Jake had to sell every component of his streaming setup on eBay. I looked at the listings. The rate at which technology depreciates is terrible. He is currently employed at GameStop, which, if it weren't so depressing, would be ironic. It seems that being a Twitch star is more glamorous than explaining to clients why they should purchase the extended warranty. Mom made a suggestion at the end of her email. They would offer me a portion of their house if I agreed to temporarily assist them with their payments. They said they might lose the house, you know. The one that's most likely already mortgaged to hell? Hard to pass, I replied with a single line. New phone, who, this small-minded, perhaps, it's satisfactory. Of course, according to what I've heard, Jake is attempting to reinvent himself on TikTok as a financial advisor. Because it seems like he is suddenly interested in delivering financial advice. It was his first video, how to use family ties to increase money. It's almost impressive how bold they are. Even now, Mom occasionally texts from new numbers. The last one stated that they are prepared to reestablish our relationship on other terms. Indeed, they were forced to live within their means once their ATM was shut down. Difficult words, those. I got them a TV for Christmas. Last week, they attempted to sell it on Facebook Marketplace, listed the $2,000 oboe as nearly new with very little use. Similar to our connection, they attempted to extract more value than it was worth, and came away empty-handed.